Hey, welcome back to Dad Life Chess. This is Joel. Tonight, I want to go over my round two game from the Central California Open. I played here in Fresno, California a week or so ago. And after the roller coaster that was round one, I only had about an hour of time between round one and round two. If you remember, in this tournament, I had chose the accelerated schedule, the two-day version. Basically, the two-day schedule, I played 3 games on Saturday, and then we had 2 rounds on Sunday. So this game was game 60 with 10-second delay, similar to the first round. And this one has quite a storyline. I've kind of called this the Déjà Vu Greek gift, and I think you'll see what I mean as we get along in this game. So I finished my round one game. If you have not watched the video, I would encourage you to do so. I was able to play one of or maybe my best move I've ever played over the board. I was pretty excited about that. Rook sack on c2, quite a fun little move to find, and got a little lucky in that game. My round two opponent, I was paired up against a gentleman by the name of Swaminathan, and it was kind of a unique situation. We got the pairings, and if you've been to a tournament in the United States, oftentimes you get the pairings not very, maybe 15-20 minutes before the round starts, and then you kind of go set up your board and do all that stuff. So I got the pairing, saw the board that we were at. I have white. Well, technically, black kind of gets to choose the clock and the board to use, but my opponent wasn't there, so you're able to set up your stuff. So I set up my board, my clock, got everything set up, boom, got ready to go. The tournament director is kind of making the announcements, and then he says you can start your clock. So I hit my clock, and I played the move that I played on the board. I played d4. Well, my opponent is not there. So I thought, nah, he probably is going to show up or whatever. And remember, this is game 60 with 10-second delay. So it's not like 2 hours for 40 moves and sudden death and everything. And I waited for a couple of minutes, and 5 minutes went by, 10 minutes went by. All of a sudden, finally, after like 10, maybe 11 minutes, my opponent shows up, and he kind of calmly sits down at the board. And I'll say this because it's going to play into the storyline. We were required to wear masks during this tournament, and so it was kind of difficult. I couldn't really recognize my opponent, who it was. In the round one, I played a kid, and this one was a gentleman who's an adult. And so he sits down, and he plays e6. So I, go into my trusty London system. I played bishop f4, and then my opponent played d5. All typical, very typical London system moves. I played e3. My opponent played knight f6. I played knight d2, which is kind of like a nuance in the London system. A lot of people think the London system is boring. You play the exact same moves every single game. Not so. Shout out to my friend Indrik, who created a wonderful chessable repertoire. Maybe I'll put the link in the description. I reviewed it on our channel a few months ago, and it's the London Attack, and I like that name because the London system can be an attacking way to play. Many top grandmasters play the London system, so don't think it's a boring, dull opening, and you'll see today it can be extremely exciting. But anyway, so I played knight d2, a little nuance. When they already play e6, you oftentimes will play knight d2. Stops a lot of these knight h5 moves, kind of knocking out the bishop because your queen's attacking. Actually, I've had people in blitz like just play this, and then I take it, and then they resign. So it does happen. My opponent plays bishop e7. Against the bishop e7 lines, which are a little bit less aggressive than like the bishop d6 lines, you sometimes can get a kingside attack. So I played knight f3. I wasn't too worried about this now, because if he plays something like knight h5 now, I can play bishop e5, and then once he plays like a move like f6, I can drop back, he can take, I can take back, and then He maybe castles. I can even play c4. And this position is going to favor white. You have the open h file, possibilities of even castling queenside. So these are the kind of positions I would gladly take this as white. But my opponent did not do that. My opponent, just after playing knight gf3, my opponent simply castled, and then I ended up playing knight e5. Now, I like to play an early knight e5 when they've played this bishop e7, and I like to pair it with an early h4, h5, and go for the kingside attack. Harry the h-pawn. I think I first saw this idea actually from a Ginger GM video, and it's a wonderful thematic attacking idea in the London system. Now, my opponent played knight bd7, and I played bishop d3. My opponent takes. Now, at this point in the game, I started to think to myself, I feel like I've had this position over the board. And so I take back with the d-pawn, the forcing this knight off of f6, and then kind of have this idea of a Greek gift, maybe push h4, you know, have these ideas in mind. So my opponent plays knight d7, and I play I play h4. We're going all in. We're going to do kingside attack. Already I'm threatening the Greek gift because you have ideas of taking, queens coming in, knights coming in, opening up the h file, and it's just going to be mayhem. It's a lot of fun to play this way with the Lenin system. And so my opponent plays knight c5. Now, if you'll notice the evaluation bar, it's kind of interesting. I even threw this into Stockfish 13, and it took Stockfish 13 to get a little while to figure out the best move. You probably, if you've heard me talk about what this game's all about, he's almost inviting me to play this move, bishop takes h7. But this is the fascinating part of this game. This is why I've called it the Déjà Vu Greek gift. At this point, I was convinced. I've seen this game. I know I've actually had this position over the board. Now, one thing when you're playing a tournament game, they don't exactly let you stop the game and say, hey, I'm going to check my database and look and see what I did, you know? And so at this point, I'm thinking, okay, he's kind of inviting me to play the Greek gift. I mean, I'm not gonna drop back here. I mean, he's basically just asking me to play the Greek gift. Right even now, the chess.com Stockfish version has not even seen that this move, knight bishop takes h7, is indeed the best move. But this is fascinating. Okay, if you remember last video, I mentioned that the last over-the-board tournament game that I played was February 1st, 2020. Now, here we are well over a year later, and that tournament I played at the Mechanics Institute in San Francisco. Shout out to the Mechanics Institute, amazing chess club there. If you've never been, it's a gorgeous chess club, very historic. I think it's like one of the oldest, if not the oldest. It's been around forever. It's definitely the oldest on the West Coast. A lot of great stuff in that club. But I played in this. It's like a 4-round Swiss Open that they do on Saturday sometimes. It was a horrible tournament. Matter of fact, one of the games that I lost against like a 1400 player, probably one of the most painful losses I've ever had in my life. One day maybe I'll bring myself together to show that on this channel. Seriously, if you want me to show that game, comment below and say, show us the game that made you nearly quit chess and want to cry and give up chess and all the things. It was painful. I literally can still feel that move that I missed. It's one of those games. But anyway, so that was like a horrible tournament. But the last round, I played this guy who happened to play this exact position. Not just any guy, it was the exact same player. I did not know this during this game. I'm playing over the board, we're going through this, but in my mind I'm thinking I've seen this position before. It wasn't until I finished this game, I went back on my computer, looked it up, to come to realize that, because I didn't really recognize him with his mask on, I had played this guy my last tournament game in February of 2020 in San Francisco. And let me show you that game before we go on with this one. That game started with d4, d5. That's literally the only difference. Bishop f4, e6. We've already transposed. e3, knight f6, knight d2, bishop e7, knight gf3. My opponent castled. I played knight e5. Look familiar? Knight d7, bishop d3, knight takes, pawn takes, knight d7, h4, knight c5. Look familiar? Well, if it does, it's the exact same position. How crazy. My opponent literally played this exact same position against me 2 times. And in that game, I did indeed play bishop takes h7 check. He took, I played queen h5 check. He went back, forced, have to go back. Then I played knight f3, coming into g4. Unfortunately, in that game in San Francisco, my opponent played knight e4, thinking he could stop this. That loses on the spot. I played here. He takes, knight takes, I take with the pawn, opening up the threat of checkmate. He plays f5, giving his king a little bit of an escape square, and I say negatache. And then in this position, my opponent resigned in 2020. Okay, that was a lot quicker. Now, fast forward to Fresno, we play this same sequence of moves, and we get to this. Oops, sorry. You know what I did. You know what I did. We get to this exact same position, and there's a part of me that's thinking, I've seen this position. I know I've played this before. Maybe it's online or whatever. Little did I know I'm playing the exact same opponent, the exact same position. And I knew I was going to take the pawn. I didn't know if it was correct 100%, but I was like, it's like the Greek gift is like screaming at you to do. So I took bishop takes h7. Come to find out, it is the best move. Don't listen to this evaluation bar. You need like Stockfish 14 to kind of see it right away, or Stockfish 13. It actually evaluates in this position like +5 for white. It takes a little bit of time for, yeah, you'll see the evaluation bar come up. Look at that. Look at that. It's going. It's going. So anyway, my opponent takes the bishop. He asked me afterwards, he's like, should I just scoot to the side? I was like, no, you can't scoot to the side just for kicks and giggles. That would be a bad situation happening there. So he takes back with the king. I play queen h5 check. My opponent plays king g8, and then I play knight f3. My idea is to play knight g5, open up the h file, and checkmate, go home early, and win the second round. Look forward to the third round, right? Well, if you remember, my opponent last time played this move, which loses immediately. This game, he actually defends a lot better. So he plays f6. Now, I know you think, okay, that stops my knight from going into g5. Not so. This is very thematic, very good to know if you play the London system, or if you want to know the Greek gift. Knight g5, sacrificing, boom, takes. Now, if you look, I've now sacrificed 2 pieces. So if I don't somehow win this game with an early checkmate, I'm going to lose because I'm down a lot of material. Now, thankfully, I have a crushing attack, and so my opponent actually plays bishop takes g5. There's a better move in this position. I've analyzed it. I don't know if it's really worthwhile on this video, but if you want to go and check it out yourself, there's a move that is better. It's rook f5. I put this position in Stockfish 13, and Stockfish 13 comes up with a ridiculously crazy double exclam, out of this world kind of move that I would never play intuitively. The Stockfish that I'm looking at on chess.com recommends g4 with an advantage. Stockfish 13, I probably had it analyzing for maybe 5-10 minutes, says castles queenside. And I won't go through all the lines there that I looked at, but it is a fascinating position if you want to look at that. The castle queenside double exclamation point. The point is that black is going to have to sack something on here, and the queen and the rooks are both going to get in, and it's just going to get ugly. And at the end of the line, white ends up with a queen against. They have to sack his queen. It's basically a queen against these three pieces, and the queen's just taking everything. It's mayhem. But I don't know. It was fun to, like, you ever do that? You ever just like follow the computer's lines? You're like, yeah, I would totally see this over the board. In reality, it's like, no, I'd probably miss everything, because there was like a few that were like only moves. But anyway, that's not what happened in the game, thankfully, or I probably wouldn't be as excited, because I don't think I'd find all the continuations. So my opponent in this game, I take here, and my opponent takes bishop takes pawn. Bishop takes, at this point I play bishop takes g5, threatening the queen. The queen has to do something. So my opponent says, hey, let's trade queens and call it a day. I say negatace, because that'd be a bad idea. Never trade queens when you're down material and you need the attack. Now, here we go. Kind of go back in my mind set, my thinking, my thought process of what was going on during this game. Up until this point, my opponent played probably, if not the best moves, the second best moves to defend. Now, look at this computer evaluation. It says mate in 20. Sure, if you knew Stockfish and your super engine, you could say, oh yeah, this is mate in 20. I didn't exactly get that evaluation hint at the board, so I thought to myself, okay, I've sacrificed a lot of material to get to this position. I got to checkmate my opponent. So in this position, I said, okay, I've got to get my opponent's king here, and then I can make this rook lift and utilize my rook. Okay, but I didn't want to go queen h8, which is still a good move according to Stockfish, because I didn't want to have to then move my queen back, because it's going to be attacked. So I thought about this. I was like, I got to get my king, his king here, get my rook into play. So I played queen h7. Okay, up until this point, I was kind of not using much time. Now I started to think, giving time each move. King f7, only move. Then I play rook h3 exclamation point, getting the rook in the action. I have very few pieces to work with. This rook's not doing anything yet, so I got to get these pieces in the attack, and hopefully do some damage. Now, my opponent then played queen d7. Now, I'm looking at this board, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I don't want his king to somehow escape. I don't know, kind of coordinate his pieces, tuck his king away, get it over there awkwardly on the queen side, and somehow survive this. So in this position, I think I spent a good maybe 9-10 minutes on this specific move, because I was really trying to calculate, how can I keep his king under attack and not allow him to run away. Now, there's a few moves that are winning, but the best move in this position is actually the move that I've found in the game, and it is queen h5. Now, queen h5 forces the king back to g8, okay? But that allows me to check him, and then with tempo, bring back the rook. Now, I was calculating during the game what happens if he goes here. That's not a problem, because I can still now play here. He's going to go back here, all right? Now I can actually, there's a few ways to do it. In the game, I was just thinking of taking. Actually, the Stockfish says rook takes is the fastest way for checkmate, because you go here, check, king f7, and then you have queen h7, king f8, bishop h6, and then this is going to be lights out pretty soon. Mate just around the corner. If he goes here, you have here, here, and then here is checkmate. kind of following the stockfish way. But I knew that if he played g6, I was going to be able to play rook h3, rook h3 to f3, and I would be able to win this pawn. Now my opponent didn't do that. He went back after I played queen h5. He played king g8. Now this is another time I stopped and I was thinking, I was like, okay, I need to make sure I don't let this attack subside and fizzle out. So I calculated and I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to go check. He's going to come out here. Now I'm going to go check and I'm attacking, double attack here, right? Okay, so I played queen h8 check. My opponent played king f7. I played rook f3 check. He went here. And now, again, I stopped. I thought, okay, am I going to take with the rook or am I take with the queen? Originally, I was just going to take with the rook. Technically, they're both about equal. They're both mate and 7, 8 moves or something like that. But I knew that I needed this rook. This rook had a lot of freedom. If I could take with the queen, if he takes this poison bishop, it's lights out. It's check and then mate, as I'll show. Okay, I played queen takes f8. I knew that if he played king takes bishop, it's lights out because of check, forcing him onto the h file, and then the queen delivers checkmate. Okay, a little ladder step checkmate there, as you learn when you're first starting. So I took the queen. I took the rook with my queen. After king g6, I took queen takes f8. Then my opponent played something I didn't see until I played queen takes f8. Now, it is the best move. It prolongs checkmate the longest. But it kind of took me by surprise. You ever make a move and you're like, oh yes, I think it's all going to work out. I'm just going to move my king here, my rook here, and then move my bishop out of the way. It's check, check, checkmate. I thought mate, no problem. And my opponent played knight e4. And I literally saw it as soon as I placed my queen, as soon as I took the rook on f8, I saw that he had this opportunity. And at this point, I'm thinking to myself, oh boy, now I can't get my rook to g3. I've got to find a way to knock this knight out of the way. I got to do something. I need to handicap some of his pieces. And I found, which is actually interesting, it's a computer's second best move. Computer actually just recommends just castling in this position, get your other rook into play. But I found a move that I thought was really creative and kind of a cool idea to basically force checkmate if really it's force checkmate, or black's just going to lose a ton of material. And so I thought, I'm going to disrupt the coordination of his queen guarding the key square of f7. I played bishop e7. And I was actually really happy that I found this move. Basically now I'm threatening to get my queen into this position. So let's say they play something dumb like a6, right? Okay, now it's queen f7. He goes anywhere, then it's mate. Okay, rook h3 mate. But I played bishop e7. I thought this is lights out. There's nothing that he can do to stop. My opponent plays knight g5, attacking my rook. I knew that I could simply take. I took, and this bishop's poisoned because my opponent actually kind of has to do something like, the computer says it's still mate in 4. Has to give up this piece, maybe push d4, king h7, all these things. Unfortunately for my opponent, he sped the process, or maybe fortunately for my opponent, he sped the process up, and I played rook g3, and my opponent resigned. No matter where he goes with his king, it's going to be checkmate on h8. So if you could pre-move over the board, I would have pre-moved queen h8. So there you have it, the Déjà Vu Greek gift. I not only had an opportunity to play bishop takes h7 in this position once, but twice over the board. Not only that, but twice against the same opponent. And I never thought that that would happen. I never expected that to ever happen for sure. Apart from one move in the opening, d4, d5 or d4, e6, we literally played the exact same sequence of moves up to this position. Bishop takes h7, check, and Greek gift. So what's better than a Greek gift? It's being re-gifted the Greek gift again. I hope you enjoyed this game. If you liked it, feel free to hit the like button, subscribe, and that keeps you updated with the videos that we are putting out here on our channel. I will be doing a round 3 recap in the next few days. I'm actually still in the process of analyzing that game. It's a little bit longer, a lot of nuance. This game was kind of cool. I was able to play nearly perfect according to the computer. Now, granted, I had seen that Greek gift before, even though I didn't completely understand all of the details. But I threw this game in the Lee chess analysis, and it gave me like a zero mistakes, 0 blunders, 0 inaccuracies. So I always feel good to when you do something like that over the board. Game 3, not as clean for sure, but still a very interesting game, and look forward to reviewing that one next. Hey, thanks for watching. Feel free to like, subscribe, leave me a comment if you like this format. And look at that. As we're talking, the Stockfish comes to understand the power of the Greek gift. What a great way to end. I saw that. Did you see that evaluation bar just jump up like that? Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, thanks for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And now the bar's going down. I should just say goodbye now. It's crushing.